Hi there and welcome back. We are dealing with order of operations today. Just up at the top, as always, in the blue, you're going to see the YouTube channel name as well as my email address if you want to contact me to ask questions, request I go deeper into a subject, explain something a little better, or if you have a suggestion for another video you'd like to see. Again, today, order of operations is on the table. This is something that is universal. It's going to occur in basically every concept that you do throughout algebra, throughout any really any branch of mathematics. It's universally obeyed. It's just how things work. And it's just like it sounds. It's the order of operations, the order in which you perform certain operations, and it's spelled out in the acronyms here. A lot of people use PEMDAS, some use BODMAS to remember the order of operations, a couple different acronyms here. PEMDAS is probably the most common one you hear. I like it, but the one thing I don't like about it is that the P stands for parentheses, when really it means any grouping symbols. Okay, that's why I teach GEMDAS or GEMDAS. I know it sounds a little clunky, but it's more correct, I guess, because it covers all grouping symbols. But that's how it works. Okay, these are the steps in order. First off, and a little note of that, is the grouping symbols. And a note with that, you perform the order of operations. You start this order over in every set of grouping symbols. Some examples there: parentheses, brackets, braces, any of those. From the innermost, you deal with those first, and then you work out. So always with grouping symbols first, and again, work if there's a set of if there's a group within a group, start inside, work your way out. Next comes exponents, multiplying a number by itself repeatedly, and then comes multiplication and division, and then addition and subtraction. You'll notice, guys, I also put a couple little marks next to those. Yes, the acronym is spelled this certain way: GEMDAS or PEMDAS. The multiplication and division is one step. So whichever one occurs first as you read left to right, you perform that first. So do all the multiplication / division in order from left to right. Same thing with addition and subtraction when you get to that step. So grouping first, innermost groups to outermost, then the exponents, then you multiply and divide left to right, whatever comes first, and then you add or subtract left to right, whichever comes first. Okay? Little bonus side note right here. I like to point this kind of stuff out. I say this over and over and over again as I teach, but parentheses are important. Every symbol means something in math, but parentheses can be your best friend or your worst enemy if you decide to ignore them. So order of operations, exponent rules, this kind of thing. I always like to point this out. There's a big difference between these two values. And it's important that you understand what it is and why it is, and it's because of the order of operations. -3 squared with no parentheses looks like this. Okay, the order of operations dictates you do parentheses, there's none, or grouping symbols, there's none, and then exponents. Okay, so this power of 2 is only attached to the 3. 3 is the base, so essentially what you're saying is negative, and then whatever 3 squared is. You perform the 3 squared, and then make it negative, negate it, change the sign. Essentially, you're multiplying it by -1. That's all it means. So you get -9. Whereas, when you throw the parentheses on and you're separating that -3 from the power, you're multiplying -3 times itself, the entire -3. So -3 times -3, as we know, negative times a negative is a positive. So that's +9. So big difference between -9 and +9, especially if there were more steps to do later on. If you're doing a more complicated problem, that could pose an issue down the road. So just pay attention, slow down, think for a second. It's always my suggestion. Moving right along, let's dive into some examples, keeping in mind our acronym, PEMDAS, GEMDAS, whatever you like to say. The GEMDAS, GEMDAS, I guess depends on whether you like GIF or GIF better. But anyway, so keeping that in mind. So first step, grouping symbols, parentheses. Don't see any here. Okay, next exponents. Nope. Multiplication and division. I do see some multiplication right here. So we're going to do this first. You could either do this as 4 times 5 and then just bring down the sign, Or, which this is what I suggest, you do positive 4 times 5. You just take that sign with you. And then that will dictate whether you have a plus or a minus that comes down. But just be aware of that. So positive 4 times 5 is positive 20. Easy as that. And 3 plus 20 is 23. As we do these examples, guys, definitely give yourself a chance to try them. You can pause if you'd like to try them first, or you can always do that on some of the later questions. Moving right along, okay? PEMDAS, GEMDAS, parentheses, grouping. Yes, we do have some grouping symbols, so this is what we're going to focus on. All right, now remember, within the grouping symbols, always start the order of operations over. So there's not another set of grouping symbols within this set of parentheses. No exponents. Multiplication, though. Okay, that's negative 2 times 3. Take the sign with you. Get used to that. Negative 2 times 3, so that's going to be 8. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, so just say 8 minus 6. Okay, still got the parentheses. 8 minus 6 is 2. When there's only, just a number in the parentheses, you can drop them off if you want to, or you just kind of mosey right along. So 6 plus 2 is 8. Awesome. We're going to skip a couple. That one's not really great because it's just a set of grouping symbols for no reason. But moving right along. Again, if you're feeling confident and want to try it first, pause the video. If you want to watch a couple, fantastic. But jumping right in. Grouping symbols, yep. 24 divided by 3, that's going to be 8. And then that's getting squared, minus 3 times 5. Parentheses, yeah, technically, but there's nothing really happening there. So exponents, yep, 8 squared. So we're going to do 8 squared is 64. Copy everything else down. And then we can move on. Don't try to do too much in one step if you're confused or if you're, don't get in a rush. But next comes the multiplication. So careful. So 64, negative 3 times 5 is negative 15, or in this case, minus 15. And 64 minus 15 is 49. So simple when you take your time and make sure you're performing all the right steps. All right. 3 plus 4 squared. A lot of people see 3 plus 4 and they'll just add them and then go, all right, we're squaring that. 49. No. Slow down. Order of operations. PEMDAS, GEMDAS, GEMDAS, however we're doing this. No grouping symbols, but we've got an exponent. Okay? This is what I was talking about earlier with the exponents. There's no parentheses, so let's just do the 4. Okay, just 4 being squared right now. So this is going to be 3 plus, and then 4 squared is 4 times 4, 16. 3 plus 16, 19. Moving right along. Making good time on this. We're at the 8.5-minute mark. All right, parentheses grouping symbols, yes, sir. So I'm literally taking everything else and copying it down. You can do that if you want to. You can just focus on the parentheses first, whatever. I like to set it up. That's just me. And within that set of parentheses, we got to perform the order of operations. So there's not another set of parentheses or grouping symbols, no exponents. We do have multiplication or division. So 32 divided by 4 is going to come first. 32 divided by 4 is 8. And then we say, bring down that plus 7. Okay. Still have the parentheses, 8 plus 7. Simple enough. Everything else comes down. Okay, you don't really need those parentheses anymore. I just like to keep them for an extra step because if you drop them off too early, you could be in trouble. But reevaluating here. Okay, we can drop the parentheses off. That makes it easier for you. Okay, no more parentheses. We do have a set of exponents. Again, minus 3 to the 4th power. Let's just do 3 to the 4th power. Okay. Let's not get ahead of ourselves and get crazy. 17 minus 15 minus 3 to the 4th, which is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, or 81. And then this is just subtraction. 17 minus 15 minus 81. So you can do the if it's all subtraction or all, addition, it really doesn't matter. But we're going to go left to right. 17 minus 15 is 2. 2 minus 81, negative 79. If you're confused as to where the negatives came from, we might need to review that. But a couple more examples and we're out of here. I'll let you skip the first few homework problems, but we're going to try these. This is the point where I would say if you haven't already, definitely pause the video, try it yourself first. Okay. So let's dive right in here. Grouping symbols come first. And within that set of grouping symbols, we got another set of grouping symbols. So if it's a lot to look at, that's fine. Just copy everything down except the step you're going to work on first. And then we can kind of focus more on that. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Okay, staying within those grouping symbols. Okay, there's not another set of grouping symbols other than this one. But within that set of grouping symbols, there is an exponent. Okay, so plus 3 squared. Same thing as saying plus 9. And then because these aren't really, this is not interacting with the step we just did, we can do them in the same step if that's easier for you instead of having to rewrite over and over and over again. 6 minus negative 6 is the same thing as saying 6 plus 6. Okay, 6 plus 6 is 12. So that set of grouping symbols, that bracket, is just 12 plus 9. So 84 divided by 12 plus 9, we're still finishing up the grouping symbol. 21, 84 divided by 21 is 4. Slowly but surely we're getting it, guys. Last one for today, we're running out of time. So jumping right in, again, pause this, try it yourself first. Starting with the grouping symbol, and then the grouping symbol within that grouping symbol. Okay, so copying down everything except the step I'm working on, leave those parentheses there. And I'll do a couple steps at a time in this one, but just getting the ball rolling. Negative 3 plus 9 is 6. Okay, so we still have a set of grouping symbols. We're still at the top of the order of operations before we do anything else. So within that set of grouping symbols, okay, we have 2 cubed minus 6 times 6. 2 cubed is the exponent. That's the first thing I'm doing. 2 times 2 times 2. And then minus 6 times 6 is minus 36. Okay, they don't interact right away, so we can sort of do 2 steps at once. Once you get more comfortable and understand what's going on, you can kind of start to do that. So I'm going to finish up the parentheses right here, or the brackets right here, but I'm also going to do the division because I know that comes before the plus sign. Okay, that's something you can do. Change my mind, I'm actually not going to do that. I'm going to do one step at a time here. So 4 in the brackets. 8 minus 36. So watch out for your integer rules here. 8 minus 36 is negative 28. Subtract, keep the sign of the larger value, absolute value. And then as we go left to right, it's just multiplication and then division. Okay, before we move on to addition and subtraction. There's no more grouping symbols really, no more operations to do within the grouping symbols, and no more exponents. So 4 times negative 28 comes out to be negative 112 plus 18 divided by 3, and we already know the division's coming next. So bring down that minus 112, and then 18 divided by 3 is 6. Negative 112 plus 6, again, watch out for those integer rules. Negative 106. So hopefully that helps. This happens in algebra. This happens in, like I said, every branch of math you're going to deal with. The order of operations never goes away, but it's so crazy how often people trip up on it. It never goes away. So hopefully that helped. Again, feel free to reach out if you'd like. I'm going to scroll back up right here and put that contact info out there.